morning workout buddies. It is week 3, day 5 in our 12-week challenges, and today I'm making a video that I've tried to make like 5 times. We've been talking a lot about the food, fitness, and mindset part of losing weight and getting into shape. But today I want to talk a little bit more about the serious stuff and kind of the psychology behind why we gain weight, and more specifically what I've gone through and learned in my weight loss, weight gain, weight loss, weight gain, weight loss experience. For me, it's been kind of a roller coaster, and I'm going to explain why that is. And I've been doing a lot of work trying to figure out what is going on. What's going on with that? So I'm just going to share with you some insights that I have learned. This is in no way advice for anybody. I do not have a PhD in psychology, but I do want to connect with you guys. I've been looking for videos that I can connect with online, and I haven't found a ton. And I really just wish people would talk more about the mental side of losing weight and what's kind of going on. And I feel like if there's a lot of things that are going on for me, they might be going on for you as well in your weight loss journeys. So just a side note, we're going to be talking about some pretty mature topics today. So if you have little ones running around, make sure you plug in your headphones. Also, we're going to be talking about some things that might be triggering for some of you, so just keep that in mind. And those topics include sexual abuse and eating disorders. So if either of those things are triggering for you, you may not want to watch this video, or you may just want to gather the support around you that you need upon hearing these things and discussing these things. But I just want to open up a conversation with you guys because I know a lot of you have gone through similar things and probably a lot worse things. So I just want to talk about it. Let's talk about it. So why is losing weight so difficult sometimes? We've all heard that saying, just exercise more and eat less. It should be so easy. And if it were so easy, we'd all be skinny minis, rocking our bodies, walking around. And for the record, healthy bodies come in all shapes and sizes. For me personally, when I gain weight is not a healthy thing in the slightest. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Okay, where do I even start? So since I've been out of high school, I have dealt with binge eating off and on. For the first 6 years out of high school, I had it pretty bad, and I didn't realize I knew it felt bad, but it also felt good, but I did not know it was an eating disorder. I loved that Karen Carpenter documentary growing up, and for those of you who haven't seen it, it talks about how she died from anorexia. So I knew what anorexia was. I knew that was an eating disorder. I knew that bulimia was an eating disorder because you make yourself throw up. But at that time, I didn't know that binge eating was an eating disorder. I just didn't know that. I did know that I was self-medicating though. So we're gonna back up quite a bit and get into that. I'm very happy to say for like the last 10 years, I haven't struggled with binge eating on a regular basis. I dealt with it a lot through college and realized that it was an eating disorder and started developing a healthier relationship with food. But there have been times where I've fallen back into it. Sometimes it's just like, oh, it's Saturday, I just want to sit on the couch and be lazy, and it's a comfort. So number one for me is overeating is a comfort for me at times. I just get to relax, kind of tune out, and it's something comforting to do with friends. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think food as comfort is kind of how we're hardwired. So I think it's healthy for me to use food as comfort in that way when I'm celebrating with friends, when I need to unwind on a Sunday and just order a pizza and just enjoy it. However, at times I've gotten a little lazy with that, and that comfort turned into a routine, and that's when there's a problem, because there's probably something deeper going on. It's not just, ooh, I need to blow off steam from my day. There's more stuff going on. And the reason I'm talking about this now is because in the last year, there have been a lot of triggers back to back to back. And when I thought I had it all figured out and I was past all that binge eating stuff, I thought I'd done all the work and yay, we're finally past that hurdle, I found myself just bam, stuck in the middle of it again. So one of my triggers is financial troubles. When I'm having money issues, I definitely tend to binge. And I'm realizing it's because shitty food is super cheap. I can go buy a dozen donuts and it's cheaper than any meal you'll ever find. The cheapest food item that I could buy is a maple donut. So I was living off of maple donuts and coffee for a while. So physically, I only have enough money to buy shitty food, and then mentally that becomes something I feel bad about, and then it's just a vicious cycle. So financial troubles have been something that have been a trigger for me. So I'm really working hard on reducing my spending and financially putting myself in a position where I don't feel that anxiety around money, where I can feel a level of comfort. So I'm willing to do the work to get there. Once I realized that was a trigger, it's like, oh, okay, that's something I need to work on. And I think just recognizing that little trigger allows me to, instead of sit on my couch and feel bad about it, to do something about it. Another trigger for me has been coping with stress or loss. Food is something that will always be there for me. I have a very difficult time speaking, apparently. Promised myself I would not ugly cry in this video, but whew, okay. I have a very difficult time asking for help and relying on people. I haven't been able to get the support that I need through the people that I need to get support from. I have a lot of feelings of abandonment. My parents went through a hellacious divorce. It lasted way too long. There were custody battles. My mom won everything and then lost everything. She got her house repossessed. And I'm not blaming my parents. I understand that they had to kind of take care of themselves at that time, but I was kind of left to fend for myself, especially on an emotional level. When I reached out to the people you're supposed to reach out to get emotional support, I didn't get that in return, so I really had to fend for myself. We're gonna talk about later how these things can also benefit you. My abandonment stuff also made me very extremely independent, and I would not be where I am today had that not happened. But I've always dealt with emotional issues on my own. And when they become too much for me to deal with, I tend to numb myself out with food. Through this divorce, not only were my needs not getting met, but I felt responsible for my younger siblings and taking care of them emotionally. So I learned kind of in my formative years that I'm on my own to deal with my emotions. I didn't really have someone I could just call and talk to and get that emotional support, but guess who I could call? Domino's. Every time I call Domino's, they come over and they feed my soul. So food has been a way to kind of comfort myself and numb myself when I am in need of emotional support. Crap food is cheap. They'll bring it straight to your door. It boosts your dopamine levels. It gives you that sense of comfort. So for me, it has been a coping mechanism. I pride myself in the amount of adversity I can handle, but when it comes to relationships, I tend to rely on food rather than people. That is something I've gotten a lot better at, but is something I still deal with to this day. I have a very hard time trusting people and being vulnerable. And right now, for me, being vulnerable with you guys is kind of an open invitation for us to talk about it. And my intention with this is that if you've gone through a similar thing, I want you to feel less alone. I feel like it's a common thing that people struggle with and deal with. Now, some people turn to alcohol, some people act out sexually, some people bury themselves in their work, and I do that quite often, and some people eat. It's kind of interesting that I remember when I started making more money, instead of eating poorly, my habits kind of turned to shopping. Like online shopping was my new eating poorly. So I was like, yay, I'm over my binge eating disorder. And then I'm like, oh, I have 5 million outfits. There's something going on here. That's a whole conversation for a different time. So something I'm working so hard at right now is relying on other people, deepening my relationships, and asking for help. Asking for help is something I would never, ever do. Actually, I did do it for a while, but I didn't get the help I needed. So I'm like, I'm on my own, I'm gonna do this, I'm a badass, I'm a warrior. But I do want those really strong relationships. I want to be able to rely on people, and I don't want my past experiences to dictate my future. Now we're gonna talk about the big one. I've learned what my triggers are: financial troubles, stress and loss, and loneliness. I kind of group together because it's all kind of a similar feeling for me. And those have all been factors in the last year, but not huge factors. But the big one that I want to talk about is my history of sexual abuse. When I was 9 years old, I was sexually abused by my babysitter, and it was a male babysitter. I remember my mom being so proud and like so forward thinking, like, boys are the best babysitters, like it shouldn't just be girls that are babysitters. But we had a boy babysitter, and he was like 17, I was 9, and I adored him. I really adored him. And then it got real icky. And then at the age of 10, my neighbor's dad masturbated in front of me and wanted me to touch him and all these freaking weird things. So I have a history of sexual abuse, and it's something that I have really worked hard on. It's something that I've really worked hard on overcoming, but I've been doing a lot of research on this, and binge eating disorder is often tied to sexual abuse. There's a bunch of videos online. I'll link one specifically down in the description that I found really kind of fascinating. So I just want to start there and kind of go in chronological order up until where I am today, because I was thinking back, I'm like, when's the first time that I binge ate something? Well, I wasn't allowed to have candy as a kid, so I would hoard candy. I would tell my mom I'm going to my friend's house, but really I was going to Mini Mart, and I would buy all this candy. I'd keep it under my bed, and in secret, I would just eat. So I always kind of had this secret, like almost shameful, hiding it from people type of eating disorder from a very young age. So that's just kind of a habit that snowballed into my adulthood, but I don't ever really remember binge eating until my first boyfriend. So I'm kind of going to talk about the sexual abuse and then my intimate relationships a little bit to kind of understand, because there's a lot of correlation with when I binge eat and gain weight to when my relationships are getting rocky and all the things that come along with that. So we're going to talk about that for a little bit. So my first boyfriend was verbally abusive. I didn't really know anything different. It was my first boyfriend. I was in love. I'm like, oh, okay. And he was an older guy. He was like 28 when I was 19, but he had erectile dysfunction and he blamed that on me. And I was athletic in high school. I was pretty in shape when I was 19, like pretty in shape. I was looking good. I was looking fine. But one thing he said to me that totally stuck with me and kind of started this binge eating cycle, he said this phrase: I'm usually just more attracted to the ballerina type. First of all, I was like, why would you date someone who's not the ballerina type when you're attracted to the ballerina type? I don't know if you see my body, it's never gonna be the ballerina type. So he basically wanted me to be skinnier. So of course, being a good girlfriend, I'm like, of course, yeah, that's what he needs. You need to please him sexually. That's when I started feeling this deep shame toward my body. That's not true. That's not when I first started. Okay, when I first started feeling a deep shame toward my body was pretty soon after the sexual abuses. I remember I started wearing hats. I started wearing my dad's baggy t-shirts. I pretty much changed my identity. I dyed my hair black for a play, but then I chopped it off to my chin. I taped my boobs down. I basically looked like a boy, and I did not want any attention from boys, like zero. So back to my first boyfriend. So when he told me that he's more attracted to the ballerina type of body, blaming me for his erectile dysfunction, that triggered some deep emotional shame that I had felt about my body in general, about just being a girl, being feminine, being a woman. So on one hand, I didn't want to attract boys, but I did want to be the most attractive person to my boyfriend, of course. So I started dieting, and I remember I did the Atkins diet, and this was the first time I ever tried dieting. Like, I never had issues with food, except for I would hide candy and eat it in private, but I didn't like binge eat on it. So I tried the Atkins diet, and I was freaking miserable. I felt like ass all the time. I think I was cutting my calories pretty low. So then I would be starving one day, and I would just like eat everything I could, and then I'd feel terrible about myself, and then I'd go right back to my strict diet, and it just started this vicious cycle. And I ended up moving in with that person, and we actually moved cross country together. That's when I was going to college in Boston, and we broke up right when we moved cross country. So I was in this new city living with my ex-boyfriend. I didn't want to go home, but I was afraid to go outside, because going from small town of 5,000 people to Boston, Massachusetts was a huge culture shock. So I found myself a lot of times in au bon pain, just drinking coffee and eating pastries. Like, I would just sit there all day. One thing that happened too when I first moved out of the house is I got into Berklee College of Music. They sent me my acceptance letter, and then they sent me another letter after I'd moved. I was ready to start college, saying, oh, we're actually overbooked for this semester, which I don't know how a school can send you an acceptance letter and then say, oh, actually, sorry, classes are full. That happened to a lot of people. I met a lot of people that happened to that semester. So here I was in Boston with a verbally abusive boyfriend, who, by the way, was like at least 80 to 100 pounds overweight. So I don't know where he got off telling me that my body was not good enough for him. Anyways, I'm not bitter, it's fine. I'm not here to crap on anybody. I'm just telling my story as it is for me. And of course, there's two sides to every story, so I'm sure he has a story too. But so here I was in a new city. I had to just get a job. I was working at the Cheesecake Factory. I was just eating like bread all day, and I was just like binging. I don't even remember that time in my life very much, because I would binge eat so much. Binge, eat, sleep, go to work, binge, eat, sleep, go to work, binge, eat, sleep. That was my life until my semester started. Then I moved out of that apartment and kind of out of that toxic relationship, and then I was doing a little better. I kind of got back into shape, and I had gained a lot of weight during that time. Yeah, I got back into shape. I was feeling good, and then yeah, being a normal college kid. And the reason I'm talking about my boyfriends, because I'm seeing a pattern here. Toxic relationships make me gain weight, or even I'll have a good relationship and then it becomes toxic, and I'll see, like, that's when I start gaining weight. That's why I'm kind of pointing it out. And then I had one of probably the best relationships of my life. This person, just on an emotional level, was with me, like 100% with me, and I haven't had that since, and I'm kind of looking for that still, honestly. But this was also someone who wouldn't let me hang out with other guy friends who were just friends and had been friends for years, and he just got super controlling with what I could wear. It was just not a good situation, and again, that kind of shaming me, making me feel less than for what I'm wearing or for how I'm presenting myself, or like just having that control over me, was a really toxic thing. And then of course he's going and talking talking to people behind my back, which is interesting because I would never cheat on somebody ever in a freaking million years. But he was being super controlling of who I could hang out with, and then he was going out and hanging out with people and talking to people that he shouldn't be talking to, you know. I remember toward the end of that relationship, I started binge eating and gained weight there. That relationship I felt kind of stuck in. That one was so hard for me to get out of because there was so much good as well. So I'm just seeing kind of a pattern here. Once my relationships get toxic, I start binge eating, and it really is me protecting myself, but also maybe punishing myself a little bit, because food has been a protective thing for me. Not only is it like a comfort thing, but I know if I gain weight, I can get out of a relationship, totally on a subconscious level. But if I can be pretty unattractive, I feel like it's more likely I'm able to get out of a toxic relationship. And that's something I've never really thought about, but looking back, I'm like, huh, that makes sense to me. No one would be like, yeah, I'm gonna gain weight so I can get out of this relationship. But like when I was a preteen, I was trying to block out any sexual attention whatsoever. That's still to this day a struggle for me, because I love being feminine. I love looking like a girl. I love feeling good, feeling pretty, feeling sexy. I like feeling that way, but I don't like the attention that that gets from people. I want that attention from one person. I want that from my boyfriend or my future husband, and I want a lot of it. But on my normal day-to-day, I don't want people looking at me that way. The one thing I've worked on so hard is to just rock it and feel good about myself, not based on anyone's opinion of me or impression of me, negative or positive. I'm gonna put my makeup on, I'm gonna wear the clothes that make me feel hot. And I've been that way for quite some time now. I've felt very confident in my femininity, but this last year has been a doozy. And then we get to a relationship where it was super fun and flirty, and like we just had so much fun together. We had very similar senses of humor, very similar interests, but when this person got drunk, he got a little aggressive and sexually violating at times. And that really triggered me. I gained a lot of weight toward the end of this relationship because it was a relationship that I wanted to last, but I knew deep down that it wasn't going to. I also felt really, really stuck in this relationship. So subconsciously, I turned to food for that comfort, but also as a protection. And this guy was very superficial. So if I gained any weight, he was like, what's that? Or he'd like pinch it or jiggle it, or like, you know, just like point it out, kind of be a dick about it. But the sexual violation stuff was something where like, oh, I'm gaining weight. I don't care. I don't want him to touch me. I don't want him to be attracted to me. And eventually that is actually what ended the relationship. And it's funny because right after that, I lost a bunch of weight. I was in the best shape of my life, feeling good. And guess who came crawling back? So it was toxic. I gained weight and I got out. That's kind of a pattern. Kind of a pattern I've been going through. So what I'm trying to learn from all these relationships is I need to be more communicative. It needs to be okay to just break up with someone because it's not working. And I have gotten a lot better about that in the last few years. It's all learning experiences, you know? And then one more relationship in LA was with a guy who is like really well off. He had a really cute son. I felt really connected to this guy, but there was something like off. I was like, something's weird here. But I just kept ignoring that feeling. I'm like, something is wacko here. I have no idea what it is. I found out 3 months in that he does cocaine all the time. Same thing happened. Because this person is doing cocaine, I started gaining weight. I keep saying it's about comforting myself. I think it's equal parts comforting myself and punishing myself. This great body that you have and this whatever has attracted this wrong person, and it's your fault. So if I was just a little more overweight, I'd attract someone who's more heart-centered and not just trying to get with me because they think I'm hot or something. So that's been a really hard thing for me to deal with, is like, yes, I want a person to think I'm hot that I'm dating. Yes, of course. But I don't want someone to date me because they think I'm hot. Does that make sense? I guess it's just a hard thing for me to balance, because day to day I want to look good, and then I equally just as much don't want that attention and don't want to attract the wrong people. So there's that roller coaster. That roller coaster I've been riding with weight loss and weight gain. I'm only sharing this because it's stuff I'm working on right now. I want to connect with you guys. I want to talk about it because I'm gonna get past it, damn it. Okay, that leads us to this last year. So last year I had a very, very triggering thing happen, like more triggering than any of my ex-boyfriends. It was kind of a Me Too moment. So there's people in my life that are in my trust circle. Like there's people who are friends and whatever, but there's people who I trust, have a good friendship with, and I think I know who they are. And that trust was violated sexual advances were made. And not only was it a friend making these sexual advances, but it was someone who controlled where I lived and my income. And so this kind of shattered me for a while. This was so triggering, and it brought me right back to that 9 and 10-year-old girl who was super scared. It just triggered all sorts of things. And then again, like I talked about, not being able to reach out to the people that I need to reach out to emotionally. In high school, I had told my friends about the sexual abuse from my childhood, and they told the counselor at school. So the counselor brought me in, and my family member was sitting there, and the counselor brought up the sexual abuse and had me tell this family member what had happened, and the family member was just blank. Like, no reaction, never talked about it to this day. And you know, if you tell someone close to you that's supposed to protect you that you have been sexually abused, you want them to at least get angry, get pissed off. Is it too much to ask for them to want to rip their freaking heads off? But there was no emotion there. No support, no empathy. This person had also made comments about how women often over-exaggerate things like that have happened. I think that was more crushing than the actual sexual abuse. This person couldn't possibly have protected me during the actual abuses. They didn't know they were going on. But to not protect my heart when I tell them about it was really hard. So flash forward to this friend who violated my trust, made sexual advances, and then I told this same family member about this happening, and their reaction was like, oh, well, you're so lucky this guy is still supporting you, and you're so lucky to have your income, like just be nice and don't talk about it and don't rock the boat type of thing. It's like, no, I'm gonna stand up for myself. I'm gonna stand up for what's right, and I'm not gonna deal with this. And I'm very, very proud of myself for doing that. During this time, there was one man who stood up for me in this situation. No one has ever stood up for me like this guy did. And he's just like a friend of mine, but I can't even explain how much it meant that he just believed me and told me it was wrong and supported me in getting out of that situation. So if you're a guy watching this, and I know guys get sexually abused as well, and it's even more shameful to talk about for guys, but if your lady or friend or daughter or mother tells you and opens up to you that she's been sexually abused, like, have her back, please. I think most people are hardwired that way. Like, most guys will stand up for women in that way, but on top of the abuse, to not have someone who's supposed to protect you stand up for you is crushing. It's really crushing. I promised I wouldn't ugly cry on this video, but here we are. And thank God for my brother, because he completely has my back and stood up for me as well. So thank you, Alex. You are amazing. Yeah, thank God for those people who have stood up for me, but I haven't really told a whole lot of people either. So this last year, I just felt sucked back into that, like, feeling like a victim. Because, like, for so many years, I've felt like a survivor and a warrior, and this last year I've really felt like a victim. But I got through it. But then I started working around guys again. Like, the nature of the work that I do is very male dominated. And here we go. Subconsciously, again, since I'm working around basically all men, I started putting on the pounds, and I was like, why is this happening? Like, why am I falling back into this? Like, I didn't understand it. I'd understood being in bad relationships was a trigger for me. I understood that in the past, but I'm like, why am I gaining so much weight right now? Like, what is going on? And then one day it just clicked. If I am unattractive, I can make damn sure that's not gonna happen again. And once that clicked for me, I realized I'm kind of doing a disservice to myself by dressing down, gaining weight. Like, that's not the person I wanna be. But on the other hand, it does protect me. So that's something I'm probably just gonna always deal with a little bit, you know? And it's so harmful when people blame women for, like, oh, well, you shouldn't have dressed that way and that wouldn't happen. It's like, no. Men need to take responsibility for their actions. I could be walking down the street naked. That doesn't mean you can touch me. Maybe call the police because it's illegal, but you know. No matter how a woman dresses or looks or presents herself, that does not give any man a green light to do whatever he wants. The psychology of it is fascinating to me because it's something that you internalize, like you brought on yourself, but it's something that someone else did to you. So that's something I'm trying to reframe. Of course, I don't have it all figured out right now. I'm just opening up a conversation because it's something that's been very hard for me to deal with this last year. I'm gonna go change my battery and ugly cry for a second, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We're good. We're collected. we're moving on. One last thing I wanted to touch on is my experience here in St. George has been a little triggering as well. As some of you might know, that there is a heavy Mormon community here. I fell in love with a Mormon and we dated for about 6 months. I just wanted to talk about that because that has triggered some of these feelings of shame as well. And the shame is something I'm like letting go of. A lot of you might not know what it means to be Mormon, but there's a lot of things they believe you're not supposed to do, and there's quite a bit of shame around that. At least that's what I've experienced. And of course, this could just be these couple people that I have encountered, but the more I learn about it, the more I realize it's just kind of ingrained in the culture. So there's a lot of shame around sex. There's a lot of shame around masturbation. In fact, sex before marriage is not only discouraged, it's like #1 sin behind murder. You're not supposed to masturbate, so there's shame around that. And they're very modest, so you're not supposed to show your shoulders, and you're supposed to wear long skirts, nothing that's above your fingertips type of thing. So my ex had kids, and I'd posted something on Facebook of me with the kids and with my ex, and the ex-wife started throwing shame bombs all over me because I had my before and after photo also on Facebook, basically shaming me for putting myself online in a swimming suit, which I found hilarious because she has a picture of her daughter on Facebook in her swimming suit. So I'm getting a little like shame and shade thrown at me, and that's fine. I understand that those are her beliefs and beliefs of a lot of people in this area. And then the shame around sex. And since you know some of my history, I've had enough of shame around sex. I don't really need any more shame around it in my life. I feel great about having sex with a partner that I love. I don't feel like that's a mistake. I feel absolutely no shame about that. So in this relationship with this wonderful Mormon man who's amazing, and I think he deserves another Mormon woman. I think that'd be a better fit. But there was some shame directed at me. One, because I masturbate. I just wanted to bring that up because masturbation is something we don't always talk about, but it's something that's really, really helped me in my healing of my sexual abuses as a kid. Masturbation is amazing because it's something I can do on my own. It's something I can feel completely safe in. For me, sex has not been a safe topic my whole entire life as far as I can remember. So it's something that was really healing to me because it was the first time I realized, oh, sex can be a positive thing. It can feel good. I just wanted to mention that because I feel like there can be some shame around that, and there was a lot of shame directed at me for doing that, and that was a little triggering. So all those experiences in the last year have led to my weight gain. I'm very happy to say right now I'm really, really working on those things. I don't feel shame about having sex. I don't feel shame about my body. I don't feel shame about wanting to have a good body and look good and present it to the world. And I'm starting to feel really empowered again. So I'm very happy to say that. It's just been a rough year. Again, I'm sharing this to connect with you guys, and I just want to finish up by saying you don't have to be a victim of these circumstances. I've prided myself on being a survivor of these things for so long, and just the last year I felt like a victim again. And now I'm finally feeling stronger because of it. All these experiences can be framed in a different way to really benefit you. My abandonment issues from early adolescence turned into me being freaking independent. Like if I was still trying to please my parents right now, I would be working at the bank, I would be married with 8 children and freaking miserable. I do want children. But being abandoned allowed me to really listen to my inner voice and listen to what I want and who I am, instead of trying to please these people and trying to become something that they want me to be. My sexual abuses as a kid have really made me respect my body. I make sure I'm in love with someone and it really feels comfortable before I have sex with somebody. In college, I made sure all my friends got home safe. I never drank, probably because of those experiences. I always want to feel in control, and I also really respect my body. And I have found enormous strength and power throughout these experiences. You can either let them break you or it can make you stronger, and it's a process. It's not like, I decided I'm powerful now. It really is a process. Here's a book that has been recommended a lot through some resources I found online. So I bought it, I'm gonna try it out. I haven't used it yet, so I can't dictate whether it's good or not. The Courage to Heal workbook for women and men of survivors of sexual abuse. I just wanted to touch on those topics, not to throw anyone under the bus, not to get any sort of sympathy from people, but really to connect with you guys, to tell my story. I really wish wish more people out there would tell their stories, because I want to feel connected too, and I don't want to feel alone in these feelings, and I know I'm not alone in these feelings. And I'm not telling these stories about exes to throw them under the bus. I'm just telling my truth and what I've been through, my experiences. They also have their side of the story and their experiences, and I honor that. But today it's all about me, bitch. So that's it for today's video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, share it with your friends. Please open up a conversation down in the comments. Let's talk about this. Let's be open about these things, and let's move forward together. Have a great weekend, guys. We'll see you on Monday for our regular health and fitness videos.